Okay, so this brings us into, I mean, it's continuing on the theme of the interaction between the perfection of the metaphysical realm and the messiness of reality and of creation itself, right? We talked about how, wouldn't it be great if the Earth's orbit were perfectly circular and that circle consisted of 360 days in a nice orbit around the sun? But no, it's 365.244 days in a year, and like that's just messy. So that's the way it is. That's the pulsative asymmetry of existence, and it brings us into this question of how energy vectors actually move through space and time, right? The metaphysical concept of a perfect sphere is beautiful. It's a wonderful ideal to play with in your mind, but ultimately it's going to be unsatisfying if the expression of it is always slightly imprecise. And so let's get into how things actually move in space. And this is where we get to a torus. So again, here's a sphere-ish structure. It's the multidimensional donut, right? This is the way that energy tends to flow through space. And like the vector equilibrium, it is self-reflective. It is self-contained. There's no outgoing vectors here. It's all, even the things that are going out eventually come back in, right? So let's just describe the fundamental dynamics of what's happening here. You can see that, well, the way this one's organized, everything's coming down through a central channel. And what's not really expressed here is spin. Everything is spinning. And this is basically what happens when you take a sphere and you spin it. That creates these vortices and these toroidal dynamics, is the combination of all the shapes and things we've been talking about, which can all be contained by a sphere, and then you spin them. So you know, you take, we've talked about the polarity. Every one of these objects has its linear north-south pole, and everything spins. If we think about it, everything at every level spins. The Earth is spinning on its axis. The Earth is spinning around the sun. The sun is spinning on its axis. Everything in the cosmos, the galaxies are spinning. Blood, as it flows through our veins, is spinning. The most efficient way for liquid to move through space is in a vortex. You know, the way we see water move on the planet is in a vortex, right? Like everything is spinning. And this is a fundamental quality of existence, of observable reality. And so that's where we get this basic dynamic from where things spin in a central channel. And in this case, it's coming down. And as it comes out, it then radiates out along that bottom axis. And then there's a gravitational pull, or there's a vortex that pulls it up and out and then down again. And we see this, it's easy to imagine in the inverse where things spin up. And if you ever watched a fountain, it spins up and shoots out, and then it gets to the top and it radiates out and it falls down. And then there's this suctional force, because it's spinning up and out, it's creating suction and pulling that back up and out and up and out, and just like that over and over and over again. And so that's just happening in two directions simultaneously, right? It's being sucked up and shot out. It's being sucked down and shot down and out simultaneously. And so toroidal fields tend to arise in pairs. They're almost always a double torus with an internal and an external. And so we see them spinning in their inverse orbits. Okay. There are three types of torus because there's three types of everything. We have a ring torus, and it depends on this sort of familiar geometrical relationship, right? The ring torus is like, this is like Purushu Prakriti, Shiva Shakti is like divorced mom and dad, you know, they're a little bit separated over here. Horn torus, they're familiar, but they're not merging, they're not doing that dance. And here we have our spindle torus, which encodes our Vesica Pisces, our mandorla shape, so that, and this is what we're most commonly seeing, although they all show up different. Again, different vibratory frequencies create different structures, but the fundamental energy pattern remains the same. This is the familiar energy pattern, right? When we look at convection currents, where the heat rises up in the center. So like looking at, this is true of both magma and the way plate tectonics work, as well as the way water boils. And so, you know, hot water rises to the surface, cools on the surface, sinks back down until it gets heated again and rises back to the surface. And it creates these convection currents going like this, which has this spiral quality at the center, radiates out the top, and then gets sucked up the center again. Same, you know, this is what literally moves continents on the earth, smashing mountains together, smashing continents together to create mountains, pulling them apart, creating volcanoes. This is the dynamic force that moves all the stuff on earth. We see it in weather patterns. So here's a tornado or a hurricane, same sort of thing, right? Spiral up the center, radiate out on top, sink down to the earth again, get sucked up the middle again. This is what our solar system is doing as it zooms through space, right? There's a spiral and everything, and you can see the way that radiation moves around, and like it creates this toroidal field around all the planets, all the sun, the whole solar system. Presumably this is what our DNA is doing too, right? Like 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay, you get the idea. This is happening at every scale of existence. This is a representation of the flow of solar wind, solar radiation, and the magnetic field lines. They go up and out the top, they radiate out on the horizontal plane, and then there's this interaction of the vertical and the horizontal planes, right? This is an image of the Earth's magnetic field. This one on the left is really what we want to study in terms of the toroidal structure of it, right? It's coming up out the center and back down around, and then the inverse is also true, and then has this sort of radiating quality on the horizontal plane. Now, there have been many times throughout history where the Earth's magnetic field has reversed, it's flipped. And in those flips, this is a computer-generated rendering of what the magnetic field looks like during a flip. Now, pure speculation, but which planet does it feel like you're living on right now? Yeah, that's that. So I don't know that we're in the middle of a magnetic pole reversal, but it sure feels like we're living on this planet, doesn't it? Yeah. So again, further speculation that maybe we're just in, you know, the way all the frequencies are working out, we're in that chaotic in-between zone, and our collective toroidal field is a little bit discombobulated right now, and that's actually an access point for work that we can all do to help. These are the Van Allen belts, which is a part of the Earth's magnetic field. They're the inner region of the Earth's magnetic field. They protect the atmosphere from solar radiation. They're capturing protons and electrons, which would otherwise deteriorate the Earth's atmosphere. So this is, you know, this protects the Earth from charged particles of the solar wind and cosmic rays that would otherwise strip away the upper atmosphere, including the ozone that protects Earth from harmful ultraviolet radiation. Animals make use of this field to navigate while migrating. Cows align themselves north to south while relaxing. So there's this very real sense of how this organizes all of the energy around us. Oh, here's a red blood cell. It looks like a ring torus, doesn't it? With the open space in the center and the circular structure around the outside. That's so weird. And now this is the artist rendering of what the magnetocardiogram of a human looks like. This comes from the Heart Institute of Heart Math. And there, you know, the electrocardiogram is what we're used to, you know, in hospitals when you're plugged in and you hear the boop, 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 boop. Well, hopefully you don't hear that sound, but that machine is the electrocardiogram, measuring the electrical pulses of the heart. There's also a magnetocardiogram, which measures the magnitude of the magnetic field given off by the heart. And it is significantly more powerful than the electrical field. We're going to get to that. So it's important to realize that we have our own personal electromagnetic field that protects us from harmful radiation and can be used to help us navigate while we're migrating, or help us relax when we're just trying to relax for once in our lives. And so this is a powerful tool for us to use, and is really the core topic for the rest of our time together here. Here's the structure of any given animal cell. Here's the structure of our planet Earth. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. And of course, you know, here in the cytoplasm, this is a liquid medium, very susceptible to vibratory frequencies. Whatever frequency that liquid medium is vibrating at is going to determine the cellular structure, right? The different geometries that are allowed to rise, the different pathways along which subcellular entities can move. Same here, right? The liquid core and all the magma below the surface are vibrating and flowing according to convection currents and organizing themselves in these toroidal structures and are sort of susceptible to the vibratory frequency of wherever we are in space. Or, I mean, if you think about this, we talked about the power of mantra and sound healing. If you know, your voice is the most powerful healing tool you have, because with every word you speak, you're sending this very powerful vibration to every cell in your body, and that vibration tells the cell what structure to take, and form is function. So there we go. These are iron filings relative to a magnet. And so you just see that we hear the two poles and the radiating energy all around, right? Okay, so this brings us to electromagnetic fields. And this is the simplest diagram of what an electromagnetic field does. And one of the facts of physics is that electricity and magnetism are codependent. They're inextricably co-arising. One will not arise without some measure of the other. And so they arise at 90-degree angles. This is an occasion when 90 degrees applies, right? And so they're always at perpendicular angles. And what we generally see is that electrical charge plays out on the horizontal plane. It radiates out. You know, electricity charge is the same as heat. You know, it's radiating, it's got this vibratory quality where it goes out. And then we have spin creating magnetism or gravitational pull on the vertical plane. And these two are interwoven, inseparable. And so typically, let's not go there yet. I mean, when we looked at the images of spiral galaxies before, right? And isn't it interesting, like, why in 3-dimensional space, in 4 or 5-dimensional space, why is it that we look out in space and all the things we see are spread out along mostly horizontal planes, right? You look at the solar system, all of the planets in the solar system are spread out, they're not separated by more than 7 degrees on the horizontal plane, right? Of the whole, you know, spherical potential of where things could be, why is everything on that horizontal plane?
That's the same plane as the planets too.
Well, yeah, the planets are all on that horizontal plane. And so this is a question of, like, in astrology, like, there are stars and constellations in every direction, but we give special preference to this one strip of them And that's because though that's the strip within which the planets move. So it's this 7-degree wide strip that we preference because that's where all the planets are. And we look out at the galaxy and we see that around the central black hole around which all galaxies are organized, it's messy, but it basically organizes itself along this horizontal plane because that's where electricity goes. Electricity is light as we see the stars along those planes. Yeah.
Just thinking about the number 7 degrees, 7 colors, 7 chakras,
7 days of the week.
7 days of the week. Is there a connection between like what degree each planet is on and like what tone or?
The planets change what degree they're on, right? Because again, these elliptical orbits are not just perfectly flat, but they go on this elliptical. So sometimes they're above the ecliptic is what it's called, right? If you take the center point of the sun and draw a horizontal plane out in every direction, that's the ecliptic. And so the planets will go above and below that as they orbit. So they change their degree. But this is the science of astrology is, what degree they're at, whether they're higher or lower in the sky, where like all of that has very concrete, observable, and then also subtle impacts on human life because it's just a relationship, right? It's like hanging out with you when you're happy versus tired is just a different experience, right? And so that's the planets are doing the same thing. Yeah.
And do all of the galaxies operate within that 7 degree?
Not necessarily 7 degrees, but ours does. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, our solar system does. But we can see like this is the phenomena that's widely observable all through space, is that there's a spinning black hole at the center, and then everything radiates out on the horizontal plane. And this is the basic structure of an electromagnetic field. This is the basic structure of the toroidal field. So that's the energy pattern that's expressing itself at every scale of reality. And of course, within that, perfectly encapsulating platonic solids and vector equilibria and all the shapes that arise within that, but basically aligned with this flow of energy. This archetypal movement. Yeah, makes sense. Pretty cool, right?